So everybody's always setting these meals up, and when they're setting these up, you know, a lot of people don't think about all the stuff that goes into them. So I'm going to show you guys today some things to think about when you're setting your meal up, and also why you can do certain things and why you can't, because it seems like people get in their head that if they've got a 20-foot meal, a 10-foot edger, and a 10-foot roller, that they can set it up to where it's all within inches or just 1 foot apart. So I'm going to show you guys how we've got our building set up, and then you can kind of adjust to accommodate the things that you're going to do futuristically, and that way you don't make a mistake, or at least this will help you to get a better idea of what you need to do. So I'll show you guys this. So on this building here, from this span right here where the back of my saw, my cab starts, all the way to the post here that goes in between there is about 61 to 62 feet. So whenever you're setting these meals up, I think that, a lot of people are thinking, hey, I'm going to put my meal directly on this here, like all the way to the metal building, and then I'm going to have my edger right on the side of the meal, and then the lumber is going to be stacked right behind the edger. Well, the first problem that you're going to get into is if you look at this log deck here, so when you want to center the meal, if you put your sawmill all the way to where it's like 1 foot from your cab, then obviously you can't have a cab with steps or anything. You have to have the door on the back. So you can do that, but then the next problem you're going to run into is the log deck. So you can't put the logs, some of these logs, like when you do 16 foot or you do 14 foot, the logs go all the way from right here to another 4 foot over here. So then you've got to have a slab rack. Now if you don't have a slab rack over here and you're having all your stuff run down through there, then that's okay. But we do it this way. We have a slab rack in the front and the slab rack in the rear, so it speeds things up and the guys can work it from both ends. Or if one gets full, my guys loading or anything else can't get over here and get it, they're not backed up and stopping. Every time you have to stop, it's going to cost you money. So like I was saying with the log deck, when you set the meal in here, the closest that I've found that I can set the meal to the doorway is about 3.5 to 4 foot from the end of the meal to where this post starts at, because you can't have the logs. The problem you'll run into is your guys loading is they have to have it perfect, so if you give leeway, then you're not going to have everything perfect. And then if one log shifts, like a lot of times you'll have a log that sets on a knot like that, you start to roll it up and then somehow it spins, falls off the knot and lands over another 1.5 feet this way. Like I said, nothing's perfect. So anything that's going to hinder you or slow you down, you really need to have space on each end. So I get a lot of people and they're like, hey, I'm going to set up a 45 foot or a 50 foot building. Well, when you do that, like I said, you're going to have your edger and stuff here, which is going to be like this edger here. I'll go up here and measure it and show you guys. So this edger here, if we take this tape measure and we run out, this on the front of this down through here on this edger is going to be roughly 8 foot from the teeth to right here. Now you need that so when your guys set 16 foot up there, it don't fall down. If you've got a shorter front edger, then the guy's gonna have to hold it the whole time or whatever, but that gives them leeway to move it, set it, run that through there. Now this mill is a Super 70. I've not extended it any at all. It's the not got a bed extension, none of that stuff. So this here is the normal length. Now it's only about 3 foot from the end of the building, 3.5, 3 foot. So like I said, then I've got my edger 2 foot from the front of my mill. And any time that we saw anything over 12 foot, it makes it really hard for the guy up here to keep up, because these Super 70s are throwing lumber off just boom, 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 boom. So this guy has to be prepared to get everything off of that. Now, like I said, if you're automating this and you're having everything go out to a green chain, then a lot of that will alleviate that. But if you're doing it like this setup, just a simple setup, then your guy up here is going to have to move all the stuff over to the edger deck. So, like I said, if you've got this building any shorter than 60 foot, I wouldn't even go below 61. But if you got it below 60 foot, like I said, this post, if you go 50 foot, that post is going to be right here at this mark right there on the rollers, where you see that orange mark right there. So your post is going to be right here close to the end of this. So then you're going to have a shorter tail on your edger. So then when you shorten that, every board falls down here. So like I said, on a simple setup like this, you have to have a long enough building that you can make things meet. And like I said, if you saw anything over 12 foot in a building like this, it is extremely hard, because by the time the mill cuts the board, it lands, it's already halfway past the edger once it comes off the mill, and then also back here. So if you make a building that is 50 foot, your lumber isn't even going to set. You're going to be out in the open. So like I said, this is another 30 foot span across through there, which will give you guys an idea. So with this 30 foot span, the longest lumber that we have in here right now is 10 foot. Now we do 12 and 14 and it works out okay in here. But when the guys come up in here, now no matter what, if your end is enclosed like this, then the guys have to come in from the side with the loaders. So I didn't want that end open. I wanted the wind blockage. We throw our cant blocks out the other side over there on that hole. As you can see, when we cut the end of the ties off, we throw them in there, and then, we sell the cants or let the guys take them home, whatever we need to do. But when you've got all this lumber lined up like this and you're on your rollers, when the guy comes in with the loader, let's say that there's 2 packs over here. Well, when you set up 2 packs over here, they got to pull this out and then pull this one out. Sometimes it's hard for the loaders to get contorted enough right to pull that over to the side with ease. So like I said, everything works in here just fine. But if you go any shorter than that, like I said, you're wanting your lumber on the inside of your building, you're going to run into trouble, because all this stuff is going to have to be pulled out. Now, we're going to put a green chain in here, move the edger back all the way to the end. Everything from the edger will come out, land on the green chain, and go down, and then we'll start stacking right here in this bay. So everything will stack down this way, and then the cross ties will fall off the end right here into a tie, holder. And so we're going to change everything up. But I just wanted to tell you guys on that if you're wanting to set a building up, I don't see how in the world you could do it properly and saw anything over 12 foot and not get backed up with a building that is less than 60 foot. So I wouldn't want one under 65. But, I know a lot of people just got to work with what they can do. But if you're going to put a Super 70 in there and you're going to put, a edger that is a industrial edger, you're going to have a pretty big edger with a big front bay on it. And if you remove the back, then you're going to have something to catch the lumber. And like I said, you could potentially do a 50-foot building if you didn't have the tail on here and you had a green chain coming out the side over this way, but it's still not going to accommodate anything over like 8 and 10 foot then, because your edger is going to be right there at the front of your mill, just like this. So anything longer, like I said, it's gonna be past your edger. So that's just my 2 cents. I know that there's a lot of people that contact me, and a lot of people really wanting to know how to set a building up. But another thing we really like, a lot of people set up the dust conveyors, but I really like the trough feed system, where, you know, it comes out to the end of the building. I've got mine set up on 3-phase, but basically everything goes in the trough. Instead of having a blade break and then it blows the side of your thing out, it just is convenient to have that trough where all your sawdust goes in there and then goes out to the end of the building. Hopefully it helps some of you. Be curious to hear your thoughts on your building size and stuff. Might help others.